Joining me right now is Loretta Powers, international lawyer, and does legal services at, she is a lawyer in corporate law, criminal defense, immigration, family law, federal and state appeals, and the list goes on. She's a member of the American Immigration Lawyers Association, the Texas District and County Attorneys Association, and the list goes on of her credentials. And she is joining me right now, Loretta Powers, to talk about, I didn't realize you're an immigration attorney too, so I might want to veer off into that. But originally I wanted to have her on was to talk about the gunman's widow, this Noor Salam, and what her rights are and what's going to happen from here. Loretta, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm well. How are you?
Good. So give me the update, as you know, or the latest on what what's the status of this widow? I mean, it's so weird to call her a widow when her husband killed so many people. It's a simple.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, what we know is she hasn't been charged with anything yet, but I think that it's only a matter of time before she is charged. I mean, she told the FBI that she knew that he was planning an attack and tried to talk him out of it, but she drove him to the Pulse nightclub at least once, maybe even more, so that he could check it out and maybe case the joint, make plans for the massacre. And the FBI agents, they're going to have to sort out, whether she's being truthful and what all she knows. Are there potential links to ISIS? But her actions definitely expose her to being criminally charged under both federal and state law.
If you're her lawyer, what are you advising her?
Well, there has been some evidence brought to light that she might have some sort of mental deficiency. Perhaps maybe she didn't know. And if you want, we could go into that a little bit more. I mean, I'm not a psychologist. I just know this stuff from being exposed to such criminal cases.
Go ahead. Let's hear this. I haven't heard this. So now all of a sudden here we go, folks. Somebody's, go ahead. I'm all ears. Please tell me. What is she claiming?
Well, it's not her exactly. It's her teacher. She was in special education classes, and they're saying that she didn't know right from wrong, and they're going into all this. But, I mean, the threshold for someone to not be convicted of a crime because of their severe handicap, I mean, we're talking like an IQ of 40. And to give you an idea of what that looks like, the most intelligent non-human animals, chimpanzees, some crows, and dolphins, they have an IQ that looks about 40. And they have skills of awareness of a small child. And in the U.S., we don't hold people under the age of 7 criminally responsible. So it makes sense that we wouldn't hold an adult with the same mental awareness. But from her comments that she made to the police as a layperson with some knowledge, I would guess that her IQ is about 70. And what we know about that, I mean, they may have difficulty filling out forms, reading bus schedules, banking, appliances, and they need help from their families, but they are still held criminally responsible. But to answer your question, as a defense attorney, what I would do, I would just make sure that she cooperated fully with the police, maybe try to cut some sort of deal. But she's potentially looking at life in prison if she's deemed to be an accessory to all these murders.
But not the death penalty, I understand it.
Well, it depends. And I guess what they're trying to do is glean more information. She could be charged with some sort of conspiracy, and conspiracy happens whenever you and another person kind of agree to commit a crime. And if one person commits that crime, you are just as liable not doing anything because you entered into this agreement.
Right.
So I think that's kind of what they're sorting out, and that definitely carries the death penalty.
But we don't know if she's going to, so we don't know. Okay, so she may have been aware of it, but she may not have. If she was aware of, there's a difference between her being aware of it and her being in a conspiracy to do it. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, okay. Absolutely. If they had to have reached some sort of meeting of the mind, some sort of agreement that they were going to carry these attacks out. And the fact that she kind of helped him, she drove him to the Pulse nightclub to kind of scope everything out. I mean, that definitely plays into her intent.
Right. So you're advising her then to cut some sort of a deal, which the best deal it sounds like she might be able to cut. I mean, you think she's going to be charged. The best deal she might be able to cut is just life in prison and no death penalty. But if what could go wrong for the prosecution that she ends up getting charged minimally, if at all? What's the?
I mean, the best thing for her right now is to have an attorney, because that attorney is going to silence her and make sure that she doesn't say anything incriminating. Right now, because she's not charged with anything, she's just cooperating fully with the authorities. We don't know exactly what she's telling them. So.
And your answer would be she shouldn't be doing that.
As a defense attorney, no. I don't think that any of my clients should speak to the police without an attorney.
Right. All right, so who else? I mean, the father, nothing there yet either, but boy, you read about him, and the apple doesn't seem to have fallen far from the tree.
Right. I honestly don't know very much about the father. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Well, the father was running for the president of Afghanistan. He's running for the president of Afghanistan, even though they already elected one. The father, you've heard some of the statements that the father has said. He's blamed the nightclub for not having enough security. He's blamed for, he's been all over the place on his statements about his son and the murders. And the father himself is... claimed to be, I want to get the group right, I believe ISIS, friendly, I guess is the word. He's got...
he's like a sympathizer.
Yes, I believe,
I think that's really funny how he blames the nightclub for not having enough security, but he doesn't blame his son for committing these really awful crimes.
I can't even begin to tell you all the stuff the father has done, because it's been so, honestly, when you watch him. Have you seen the father at all? Mm-hmm. You have seen the father? I mean, if you watch him, and he is just, it's like looking at a train wreck. He is just a fascinating character, because I think he's bizarre.
Right, and he is on the no-fly list, correct?
I don't know that he is or not. I don't know that. There's pictures of him, by the way, in Washington, out in the Capitol, outside various senators' doors. He claims to have met with them. Now, who he actually met with, we don't know. But quite honestly, I'm sure he got in there without any arms. But when you see a guy that's as, to me, unbalanced as him, to see that he could get that close to the seat of power is disconcerting, to say the least.
Right, and the shooter had to learn his radicalness from somebody.
Yeah. Now the other thing I wanted to ask you about in this, all of this, is due process and the FBI and all that, because they're having a big debate over due process right now. Okay, somebody was texting me a question to ask you, but anyway,
due process really is just notice. You're noticing somebody that you're going to be charging them of these crimes. And right now, no crimes have been brought forth to Miss Bettine.
So, but do you think the FBI blew it? And now that's separate from due process. The FBI was... in San Bernardino, the woman who saw something and said nothing, as I've been saying all morning, she was afraid to speak up for being called a racist. So she saw something. There's this big campaign they have, if you see something, say something. But she was afraid. She saw something and said nothing because she was afraid of being a racist. This guy, this Martine, people saw something and said something. Multiple co-workers said this guy was a whack job and that he had been violent, had threatened, had said demeaning things about women, different minorities, had made threats. And the FBI, to me, even without due process, they blew it. Somebody said, because I made a commentary that Joe Manchin said on Morning Joe, that he said what's killing us right now is due process. And I'm thinking, no, Joe, what's killing us is gun-free zones, a lax immigration policy, and senators like you that do nothing about our borders and terrorism, and that you're vilifying guns and not calling this a terrorist act. That's what's killing us. But he talked about due process. And so I made a commentary about that. Then I was blaming the FBI, and some listeners have said, well, you can't have it both ways. Yeah, you can. I'm not asking that the FBI forego due process for this Martine, but it sure seems like they had enough complaints and enough evidence to have at least watched him. Am I missing something?
I think they absolutely had enough evidence to watch him. I mean, they investigated him twice and did nothing about it. But, I mean, there is this fine line between free speech and committing criminal acts. And I think he straddled that line very, very well.
Except when you're making terroristic threats. Isn't that crossing the line? which some of his coworkers felt.
Absolutely.
Well, some of his coworkers felt that's what he was doing. Now, I guess the FBI, I don't know. I guess they felt it was just empty threats, but there were more coworkers. First, it was one guy, but many others have come forward since saying he made all kinds of threatening comments. So, again, are they allowed to? Let me ask you this: to be on the terror watch list, does there have to be due process? That's number one. Number two, can you still follow the guy and put him as a person of interest without being on the terror watch list?
Yes, you could follow anyone as long as they're on our public streets. That's not a big issue.
Right, so that's like they say we're going to put a tail on the guy. We're going to tail him.
Right. And you could do that to anybody without suspicion.
So did you think the FBI blew it?
I mean, I know that the FBI, they're working hard for us. They're trying to keep us safe. I don't want to say whether or not they blew it one way or the other.
All right. I kind of think they did. So anything else you wanted to add to this that I haven't asked you about so far?
Mostly, like, you brought up the gun-free zones, and that being the biggest issue. I completely agree with that.
Right, because here people, I've said on the air here this morning and on yesterday morning, you have a lot of these people who are anti-hunting who say that's not a sport. If you gave the animals a gun and they could shoot back, let's see that happen. Yet those same people that are anti-gun and don't want hunters to hunt and say the animals should be armed don't want the people that don't want people who are being hunted to be armed. They want animals to be armed to shoot back at hunters, but their own fellow citizens in gun-free.
Right. I mean, and one thing that we do know about mass shootings is that most mass killers have domestic violence in their past. That is the common thread. And his ex-wife went to say, hey, he abused me. But if she would have come forward and if he would have been convicted of that domestic violence, this guy wouldn't have been able to buy a gun in the first place.
So you think that the ex-wife sort of dropped the ball? I mean, I know it's hard to say. You don't want to blame her.
I mean, I don't want to victim blame or anything like that. I'm just saying that if you see some sort of domestic violence, if you see violence towards women, that seems to be the common thread of mass shooters. Not so much immigration status, not so much religion.
Well, then let me go to them. I didn't realize you are an immigration. You're a part of the American Immigration Lawyers Association. Tell me what you do at that job.
Well, I mostly help out refugees get legal status.
Okay, so
refugees will always have a soft spot in my heart.
Like Syrian refugees?
Mostly from Somalia that I've been working with.
Christians or both, Muslim, whatever?
Muslim, whatever. Like, if you've been persecuted on the account of your race, religion, political opinion, I want to help you out.
That's all well and good. I guess my concern is who's vetting these people? How do we know who they really are?
Well, I've been to some of these detention facilities, and I've been to a lot of jails. There's no difference between a detention facility and a jail that I can see. So we are locking them up behind bars. We are doing the vetting process very well, in my opinion. You go to other countries like Sweden, and they allow these refugees to live in houses, and they actually end up murdering the people that are watching them. At least here, we have some security. We are protecting our sovereignty while they get vetted, and sometimes it takes years.
With some of these refugees, I guess I can't argue with you. You're saying that. I'll take you at your word. But what about how did we, if we're vetting people, how did we get to the number of 11 to 30 million illegal immigrants?
Those, sometimes they don't always claim refugee status. Sometimes they enter without inspection. And we have a hard time keeping track of that as the American public, unfortunately.
I am for legal immigration, but I am not for illegal immigration. You come here illegally, you protest in the cities and wreck police cars, you hold signs saying you're here illegal in basically blank America, and
right.
And no one arrests you, and the Trump supporters are beaten up. Trump is vilified, but the people that are here illegally suffer no consequences. And not only that, they get to be in sanctuary cities, and not only that, they get to get benefits. What's right about that?
And nothing's right about that. And I actually have a very unusual story of how this kind of works out. It's because of our open border system. You know, I had a client who was deported, and 3 days later he was back in the United States because he was able to make that journey from Mexico into the United States. And so I think we need more secure borders whenever it comes down to it. But that is very unrealistic considering how huge our borders are and how hard it is.
Well, I got to tell you.
The lid on it.
Hold on. Wait a second. Let me find something. Wait 1 second. See if I can find it here. I have it here somewhere. Give me a moment. I'm talking to, again, Loretta Powers. Loretta, you have a website or anything that you want people to know about?
Yeah, it's LorettaPowersLaw.com. And also TimPowersLaw.com. I'm an attorney at the law offices of Tim Powers, where I primarily focus my attention on criminal defense matters.
All right, so again, give me those Loretta Powers.
LorettaPowersLaw.com and TimPowers.com.
Okay. So here we go. I'm going to read this to you. They're talking about putting up a no-scale fence, one you cannot scale. And they're going to have a no-scale fence. They are, hold on, let me get the rest of it. There are going to be 20 subcommittees examining, among other things, infrastructure, transportation, security, crowd management. It's going to involve dozens of government agencies, and all kinds of ID will be required. That's the security at the Democratic National Convention Wells Fargo Center. Why don't Americans deserve the same as Democrats are giving themselves?
Wow. That I unfortunately can't answer that, but that is a remarkable statement.
More than here it is. This is the Wells Fargo Center. Be inside the DNC perimeter. NBC News. This is from NBC News. This is hardly some conservative made-up story talking point. There is going to be a no-scale fence to enclose the Wells Fargo Center. Special Secret Service agents in charge. People besides the no-scale fence. People manning the fence, and then 20 subcommittees examining, among other things, infrastructure, transportation, security, crowd management. It involves dozens of government agencies, and there's all kinds of ID requirements that I won't list here, and all of that to secure the elite Democrats, and I'm sure the Republicans may do the same, and yet the American public doesn't seem to deserve the same. You've got other countries putting up fences. They're not, if you go on Snopes, it's not, I forget which countries have built, is it Ecuador? I forget which other countries have built fences. I believe it's also Syria that's built. Why, hey, look at the Great Wall of China. But bottom line is, we do nothing, whatever it is. We've got people coming here, we've got sanctuary cities. Why are cities allowed to make up their own laws, but they couldn't? What if we did a sanctuary city for abortion? Can't have an abortion. Can't have an abortion in Allentown. Why is it? I don't understand. So I'm for immigration, but I'm for legal immigration, and I'm also, if somebody's coming here illegally, why are they getting in-state tuition and all the other stuff? I get what you. It's nice that you have a soft spot for refugees. But we're a country that's on the verge of implosion. We're in debt up to our eyeballs, and we're worrying more about other people than we are about seniors that can't stay in their homes, veterans at the VA center, and the list could go on of the Americans that are struggling. And I don't know if you sense the anger of the American public.
Right, and I think a lot of it is that we've kind of lost touch with what it's like to really be an American. I mean, we no longer recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag in schools anymore. And if we attacked ISIS with the same fervor that we attacked communism, like back in the 50s and 60s, we wouldn't be having this problem.
But we're not attacking them. That's the point. And instead, we've turned Florida into a debate over guns instead of a debate over terrorism and immigration. I know this guy was legal citizen, don't get me wrong, but there's enough other times where that's an issue. So, hold on, let me just shut that off. So you get the point that I'm making, though. There's just the American public feels like no one is speaking for them, and everybody's worried about someone else but them. Everybody's worried about guns but not terrorism. They want to take away Americans' guns who've done nothing wrong. They just want the same firepower that the criminals are going to get the guns anyway. And so they feel like, we're being targeted as law-abiding gun owners. Who speaks for us?
Of course. And the fact that they want to take out assault rifles from us is just ridiculous because they're going to have a really difficult time getting those assault rifles away from ISIS.
And I honestly, the assault rifles are also everything's an assault weapon, and AR-15 doesn't mean assault rifle. It's the first two letters of the company that manufacture the guns, or how that AR got started. I can't remember the name of the company right now. And then they want to misconstrue and say these are automatic weapons. They're semi-automatic. For one, that's number one. And you can get a long rifle that doesn't have the black look that can be semi-automatic too. The next thing I'm going to do, that's for hunting. What are we going to take those away too? I mean, anyway. We got off on another subject there besides what you were going to talk about. So anything else to conclude here? I appreciate you being on. And again, give me your websites again.
Sure. It's timpowers.com and lorettapowerslaw.com.
Okay, great. Anything else you wanted to add before I let you skedaddle out of here? Anything else?
No, I think we covered everything. So thank you very much for having me on. It was such a pleasure, and I loved hearing your insights. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, appreciate that, and I appreciate you going off topic there and talking about something that you specialize in. Now that I know that, I can use you as a resource on the refugee stuff. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
No problem.
Loretta Powers, criminal defense attorney. News Radio 790, WAEB.